cross-platform mobile and online forum. We are very proud to present the probably top 3 mobile game developing studios and publishers for Germany. And I'll ask the gentleman for the panel to come up here. We've ordered some water, but unfortunately it hasn't arrived yet. Depending on how they choose to sit, from my right to my left.
Okay, just
Klaus Kersting, who's a 2-time panelist now, and has played the role of I've been in online games and now in mobile. Cool new guy on the online games panel is now the newbie on the mobile games panel. Klaus has Flare King Games, and they are producing, as we've already heard this morning, going to produce 6 or 8 titles this year. 8 titles in the next 6 months. In order to swarm the market with this product and totally grip it immediately. Someone who knows about gripping it immediately, Christoph Kasulke from Handy Games has been in the business for 13 years with his company and the mobile business.
Yep.
Before that in the retail and console business. And he's seen literally everything in the mobile market. He's been around the block so many times, and he's quite relaxed about the future proposition for that market. And then we've got Michael Schade from Fish Labs, who've also been, how long have you been?
8 years now.
8 years now. So also one of the almost veterans of the mobile games branch. And that's a special situation, or that's a specific situation in Germany, that we had a very early mobile, a couple of mobile developers, and they managed to survive for that long, where a lot of other companies, big names, went out and now are coming back in again, which is one of the topics we're going to talk about today. My name is Jan Wagner. I'm one of the organizers of the Browser Games Forum, and I also run Cliffhanger Productions, which is a very small development team. And we're currently doing online titles and trying to do tablet and trying to learn about mobile. So one of the reasons I'm here today is to learn from these wise elder gentlemen of the games industry.
Wise is fine, but elder.
Was it a compliment?
Elder with regards to your experience, obviously nothing personal in that regard. So first of all, as someone from the outside looking in, basically, you're all doing mobile. To me, it's all the same thing. You know, it's a small device. I tap on it nowadays. It used to be I needed very nimble fingers, and all the games are crap. Is that true? Or how do you differentiate your games from everybody else's games? Let's start with Michael, because you obviously aren't crap.
Well, thanks for that. I mean, a good example that how far we came with mobile is like last year we got the great pleasure and have been awarded the best studio in Germany for our dedication into 3D mobile gaming very early on. I mean, when we started 8 years ago, even the biggest houses like Gameforge, Gameloft, mixing the genres here in platforms. But anyway, so really the big publishers, their high-end games were 2D platform games. And at that time, we decided to focus on 3D mobile gaming, like bringing console game experience to the platform. And now with iPhone 5, iPad 3, we are very, very close to the quality that you can have compared to an Xbox 360. So if you want to create that kind of quality, you can definitely have it on mobile. The question is, how do you get there, and if this is feasible for everybody, if this is a sustainable business model.
Mm-hmm. So, Christopher, you don't do 3D games on purpose?
Yes. I think first to your question, crap games will never sell on a long term. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here anymore. Only quality games, and quality games are not for us always 3D. 3D is for us a feature, same like a lot of other stuff. We produce the games on all kind of platforms where the users are, and that's on mobile, and that's a massive amount. So that's where we are.
Okay, Klaus, where are you?
I'm pretty agnostic about technology too. So whatever serves best to deliver the best experience with that genre to the target audience. And it can be a 3D title, like we did, for example, with our last Royal Revolt launch. It can be 2D too, and we will do both in the future.
You said this morning that your primary platform is tablet. Mm-hmm. why is that, and how does that differentiate? Obviously, it's a different screen size and everything, but what difference does it make in terms of market? What difference does it make in terms of the type of games you put out if you focus on tablet versus generic mobile?
The gaming behavior is different. The slicing of the sessions is different. The times of day that players actually play are different. I mean, the tablet, probably you all know from your own experience, you have at home. You get out on the couch as kind of a second screen. The TV is running, or a video, or your PC, or whatever. But then you put your tablet out and play for a while. And this can be like console game type behavior, like you play for an hour or two. And with the tablets getting lighter and lighter, this will even more increase. On the other hand, on the mobile phones, you have rather this 1 to 3 minutes in between sessions, riding the bus, sitting on the toilet. Actually, 38% of game sessions on mobile games are generated by guys sitting on the toilet.
Who don't have any friends at Valentine's Day, as we learned from high school. That's a pretty picture of our game, though.
It depends on the game, though. Yeah. Coming back to crap games. Yeah. Yeah, but the gaming behavior is different, and obviously the experience you can create is different. I mean, you are limited by the smaller screen on a mobile telephone, which is a good thing, because I believe that limitation is always something that enhances creativity. But you have more opportunities to create great stuff and great experiences, at least for now, on a tablet.
Mm-hmm. I think, first of all, the tablet is a better way to play games than on a small screen. That always was. And tablet users have more money. That's quite simple. So for specific kind of games that has, for example, not a pure free style, tablet games are for paid in-app purchases, stuff like that. Way better to monetize than on a small mobile screen. That's here in Europe, for example, North America, but as soon as you're going to globally, you need to focus also on the mobile screen, on the small mobile screen. The next trend will be beyond mobile, as we call it, for over a year. So conquering, I think Fish Labs did the same, conquering now the PC, conquering now console, stuff like that. So bringing the small games to a bigger audience, to a bigger screen, is easier than a lot of other guys from the PC and console business realize that they cannot bring their huge games to a small screen so easy.
I mean, sorry.
Yeah, I just want to say, obviously, it absolutely makes sense to tailor a game to one device, in particular a tablet, and get the best game experience here. And also, that's absolutely true. That's something that we also see, that people spend more if they're on a tablet. On the other hand, I think it's if there's a way to support more devices, it's very important, because you're missing all these opportunities where you play between longer sessions, and in particular, if you have a game that has a lot of depth and people keep playing for a very long time, it really makes sense that you can take your session from one device to another, and then that ties in with Christopher just said, that you even can bring this very game session to your PC. Because at the end of the day, I mean, we're at the Browser Games Forum today here, but now we're talking mobile. I don't know, in like 1, 2, 3 years, are we really talking about this is a game dedicated for a certain platform, or is it more like it's a game, and the most important thing is don't give your users an excuse to not play your game, because otherwise they will play your competitor's game.
Same as we think. So for us, it's like we're producing a game, no matter if it's for a tablet, if it's for a mobile. You can even plug in already your mobile phone and play it over, for example, a Beamer, and you have a really nice experience. So check out the latest Nexus devices, the family, which rich graphic they have. So we're not talking about 120 on 60 pixels or something like that. So it's a totally different user experience.
I mean, we've heard this morning from the browser games people that they kind of went through the same development as I think every games industry company with whatever platform they've been servicing has been doing. They started out with a small team. They had a relatively easy time. Then devices started to get better. They followed suit with more graphics, more depth, more engagement, more whatever. Then found out it's more expensive to do that. They've got more people that also want in, so the business got more expensive to run. The marketing got more expensive. Is that? I mean, and mobile has been the big thing 10 years ago or something. I remember when Universal did their mobile company, and they swore that it would be great. EA did that, and then they all went out. and now they're coming back in again. But are you seeing the same development, and how would you react? I mean, you've got teams that create their, compared to console or PC games, small teams that create a limited amount of content, a limited amount of graphics. Now, with those increasing, with getting better on the tablet, preparing to be able to display well on a TV screen, are you caught in the same trap? Are you going to have a good run for 2 years, and then everybody starts to triple in size or triple in cost? Or do you think there's a different way for mobile games to get out of that?
I guess there is actually. I mean, the problems from rising production costs always come from focusing on an audience that expects something like that, a greater graphics experience, stuff like that, more content. And there is another audience on the mobile devices too. I mean, there is on most devices. We still decide to tailor our games or to focus more on the mid to hardcore user because they are just more engaged and more loyal. And we really want to create an engagement with our users and our titles over some time and over our portfolio, hopefully. But there will always be like these small games that do something great on the mobile device because just the gaming behavior is different. A game that is just creating 5 times 10 minutes of fun, for me, is worth some money. And I will spend some money for it. And it doesn't have to be something I play for days or weeks or hours even.
But obviously, I mean, if you have the tablet and you're catering to, I mean, let's look at the social games, which were sort of the in-between between browser and the mobile games for a long time. They had a more casual audience, and they sort of educated that casual audience to a degree that the audience said, guys, you're still selling me the same game I played 3 years ago or 2 years ago, and they are not as easy to get now. If you see the new numbers, all the products have a much smaller life or less much reduced life cycle, and it appears that there is a certain evolution, let's say, in the playing behavior that the natural reaction of most people, and including Zynga, is to counter that by doing more better graphics, doing more content, doing deeper gameplay, and then they alienate part of the user base that doesn't want that, but they also remain more optimistic about being able to monetize the ones that are still left. So is that something that you think the mobile space, due to its slicing and session slicing, is more resistant to, because you can sit for half an hour on the toilet, but usually you don't, because then your legs cramp and you fall asleep?
Well, the problem with the social games all being alike comes more from the culture and company structure and processes of Zynga and companies the like, I think. I mean, they learn stuff that works at one title, they cross-pollinize it to every other title they have in their portfolio, and so in the end, yes, every title will basically be the same. And they can't help it, and that is one of the major problems they face in the social environment today. In the mobile gaming industry, something like this will happen too. And the challenge is to do this and still not forgive the creativity its part. And there will always be something that is kind of unpredictable about it, and there will always be hits and there will be failures, and the hit ratio will get smaller and the production costs will rise. That's the way things are.
I think as long as you stay agile, as I'm doing that from the beginning of mobile games at all, as long as you keep the innovation up, you're trying to do something new, something better, not trying to copy other stuff. Innovation means mainly a lot of investment from any developer studio. Not copying other concepts, that's the key. Staying innovative, even on monetization. We were the first company that went completely free. We tried out free already in 2006, for example. I think that's taking care about the consumer. Keep in mind that the consumer is paying the bill. The production costs, in my opinion, are not going up, so they will stay the same. We will also see that a lot of companies, we had the discussion before here in the other panel, that they are spending extreme amounts also on mobile, because they don't have a market share already. They don't or cannot cross-link from one game to another. Or if they do that, that's from a Zynga 1 game to a Zynga 2 game. It's always the same. That's why we do it a little bit different. We produce totally different kind of genres, for example, and can shift the consumer around. And that keeping the marketing cost quite down. And we make money with those companies because they advertise within our companies to get up in the chart. So yeah, I'm happy that they are spending up to $8 per download. Perfect.
No, that'll change. Well, of course, if there's a new market, in the beginning there's a very big excitement, and there are great expectations, and expectation is the mother of disappointment. I just learned recently. And
Chinese proverb.
Yeah. So it wasn't a big surprise with the very complicated structure, selling games through carriers, very complicated middlemen, and so on. And thank God we don't have that anymore. That the first kind of mobile game bubble burst. However, now with iOS and Android in particular, and we were looking at 500 million devices on iOS in the market and a billion Android devices out there. Of course, not every Android device is a great gaming device. However, let's say a couple 100 million. So this is a huge market. And so we closed the HD graphics. We have free-to-play business model in place because we have a very good in-app purchase system that doesn't require to add all the payment partners as it is the case with browser games. I would say the last 10 years for us, mobile game developers was like, there was a qualifying. So the race hasn't started yet. It's like the last 10 years was like to find your place where you are, and then it depends where you start the race, and the race is on. It starts right now. And we have seen great examples, Natural Motion, CSR Racing, $12 million US in the first month. They're still in the top grossing charts high, so I expect the next month will be in the 8-digit range as well. Then with Supercell, 2 titles, similar numbers, $15 million US in the first month. So I bet everybody in the gaming industry is reading that. So that means, of course, the quality will go up. And you just need to look at the movie industry, like movies like from Pixar. I mean, these are casual movies, right? But the production value is incredibly high. And of course, even if you're a casual gamer, that doesn't mean that you're not appealed to great graphics, great sound, and audio. And I'm very sure that we will see great casual games, but with stunning 3D graphics, most likely not from Fish Labs, because that's not our core passion. Well, never say never, but I don't see that happening for us. But again, have you seen Clumsy Ninja from Natural Motions, the keynote? Spectacular. I mean, it's so casual, it's so neat, and this cool, neat Clumsy that you can, Ninja that you can take around and play with it. Perfect. I saw that. I said, this is going to be another 8-digit revenue a month hit from Natural Motions. So they are currently absolutely the best studio in the world out there. And the big difference is compared to Angry Birds, Doodle Jump, Tiny Wings, great job from Andreas Illinger from Germany, if you don't know it by now. So these are all great games, but I doubt it was like a planned success from the very beginning. So they just shelled it out, and with a bit of luck and coincidence.
I think Rovio did something like 50 games before they struck on Angry Birds.
Very good execution and like leveling this to merchandising. However, CSR Racing, that's something they knew exactly what they were doing, and we're going to see more of that.
Yeah. But is that a because we had that question, who are you afraid of? You know, if you look at the likes of Gree or Dina, whatever quality games they make or they make not, they've got very deep pockets, and they push in with an enormous amount of power. Yeah. Now, whether they succeed or not I mean, that's the first question. But the second part of the question is, are they damaging the market for everybody else? Because that's what you see partially in the online games industry, where you know the advertisement prices have gone up because there's so much competition that wants to get into the market, and not because there are necessarily so many great games that beg to have eyeballs.
I think, for example, we had the discussion before here on the online game side and on browser game side. They were the reason why the prices are so high. So there are some alpha guys who are spending a lot of money on their own game, pushing that up because they have the money. And mobile, there's a lot of venture capital in there, trying out a lot of new things. I believe that that will end sooner or later, because money alone is not making a big success. Check out Natural Motion. There was not really a lot of money on the marketing side in the beginning. So that's changing now.
But there was the keynote now.
Well, I think that's. I mean, if you look at Natural Motion, as you said, it's not. They haven't stumbled upon success. They've got venture capital in, they've got and they've got experienced people in. They executed a plan. And if you look at Supercell, again, that's veterans. They did their first thing that didn't quite well, and then they refocused, and now they're doing quite well, and you profit from it. Congratulations to a wise decision. But it's a different kind of company. I mean, you've come up from the bottom up, basically. You've built your own company from the grounds up. You've done everything yourself. You've got all the connections. You've got a years of head start, basically, for a lot of topics that these companies need to learn. But on the other hand, it does appear that you can, to a degree, build a certain amount of success.
Of course you can. I mean, look at DNA and Grey. They are giants. Yeah. DNA alone does like 2 billion in revenue and more than 1 billion in profit a year. Of course they can spend $8 for a user, several times actually. And but I have a strong feeling that those Japanese companies will not succeed in the West. I mean, I know a few guys from the Grey and DNA universe, and both kind of try to do the same thing. They were very successful in Asia. They thought they would buy something that would give them a distribution lever in the West, Ngimoco on the one hand, which basically was a not successful game developer, and on the other hand, OpenFaint, which was like a social network for games, and both were actually not able to bring them the lever they were looking for. I mean, look at the cross-promotion opportunities in OpenFaint. It's like the third sub-menu somewhere. Yeah. And yes, they had like 280 million users, but that doesn't matter if you can't show anything to them. Basically, they blasted money out of the window. The Ngimoco guys, basically the top management just left the company. They weren't really managing or leading the company anymore. They were doing what the Japanese told them to do. And that's something that will destroy the market. There is a great saying that business development for Japanese is not like you look for what deal is applicable to the market, but the management tells you what deal you will make applicable to the market. And that's exactly the behavior they are showing there. So they will have huge difficulties having success there. Nonetheless, they obviously do several hundred millions of revenue. But yes, that happens when you spend a lot of money.
Yeah, and from trading cards in China. So how does that help us? In particular, like having a hardcore sci-fi game promoting to others. So I think, well, I don't know what's the agenda exactly, and I don't know that much about those Japanese guys. And obviously, we bump into each other on the conferences. Excuse me. But 280 million users. I mean, if you have a game that uses those gaming networks and you play it, and automatically you're signed up with a generic number, that's not a user.
Yeah, sure.
So there's a very big marketing bubble of all these social gaming networks, and there's maybe like it is with browser games, like how many players do we have? Well, if you log in and you automatically sign in for like 30 titles, then of course you have a lot of
well, for them it worked out. They had a huge number, they were bored.
Exactly. So if you boil that down, say, well, maybe they have like 20 million in Japan, that helps you not at all in the West. And I think this is the struggle they currently see. And second is like that the portfolio they have, it doesn't appeal to the Western markets. I mean, we had a huge booth at Gamescom, but also at E3. And you walk around, look at the titles, say, yeah, okay, that might work in Japan, but I mean, seriously, nobody cares about that here. So I would say we don't need to be afraid of those guys. For us, it's more like having the high-end, having the 3D and the console approach for mobile. Obviously, sooner or later, the console guys will come. And they bring the technology, they're going to bring their big brands. EA is doing pretty well on mobile. The recent Need for Speed is ace. It's very casual, so you don't have to do anything, and you make it to the finish. Thanks. But it looks stunning, spectacular. So they have a good engine. They have Firemint and Iron Monkey acquired in Australia. So EA did the right thing. So what happens if Activision and eventually Ubisoft and some others just collect the studios that are still around, and you're not part of those? You need to be really ahead of the curve.
I think you don't need to be afraid about those guys who have deep pockets. Last year, all the guys, first panel, sorry about that, was, yeah, we can do mobile as well. I wasn't here, I just saw the press, and everyone said, yeah, we can do mobile. It's 1 year ago, I don't see mobile here anywhere. So the biggest challenge also for like Vivendi, they came to the mobile game space already, and they were running out very fast again. And they had deep pockets. They know the old market. They had the big brands, and it didn't work out. So I'm more afraid about those guys who are not that predictable. Because I know exactly what the console guys will come up. I can choose the battlefield where I don't compete against an EA, where I don't compete against an Ubisoft. Okay, we have Townsmen, they have Settlers. We win. The thing is...
Ubisoft?
Pardon?
Hear that, Ubisoft?
Ubisoft is there.
Yeah, I know.
I think really it's about choose your battlefield, choose the monetization you want, build up your own network, and be more afraid about those small studios that are way more creative, that can take the audience by the title, not about the marketing budgets that they are spending, because all those marketing budgets will not stay forever, no matter if it's Cree. Yes, they do a fortune with other stuff, but are they really successful as their titles are not fitting to the other audience? Let's see. I think in 2 years, I saw so many big companies joining the mobile game space, running out, joining, rejoining, going back again. So, we will see. I think it's still mobile games.
I think it was a different time.
Yeah,
it's easier now. It's a mass market now. It's far more standardized. You aren't depending on the carriers as before. Big guys with big monies and big brands will change the atmosphere and the landscape, and they will change it forever.
But the audience are growing
like
faster.
2 or 3 or 4 of the guys being out there as small developers will succeed and be a real giant in this market as well. The other ones will be small developers.
Yeah, but check out Natural Motion, for example, Supercell. They come out of nothing.
Ex-console guys, super smart in monetization, did the thing
well-funded.
Right. And I have to say, difference to the browser games guys, I know the guys are sitting here, we were talking to them. I think browser games industry underestimates the level of quality on mobile. So mobile, in particular smartphone, tablets, is closer to a console. And while what might work in the browser game space on Flash and isometric graphics, on mobile we are far beyond. And this is why I'm not afraid, but I see those guys coming, and I mean, no doubt, if they bring all the top brands, they get the big Apple feature, they get the big Google Play feature, and have the money on top to push that through. And then the brand is already recognized, so even user recommendation will work for them. It'll be very hard as an independent studio to fight against that.
So that, I mean, basically, you disagree, obviously, which...
we like to disagree.
Yeah, that's okay. So the biggest challenge is that if a big PC, console brand, whatever, even a movie brand is coming to a mobile, users have expectations. And mainly, they weren't getting that back, what they were expecting, and they will not be in the future. You can check that out with most of the titles out there. There are some that work, but at the end of the day, mobile is different. Mobile, I need to say, the fragmentation nowadays is even harder than in the old days. Fragmentation in the old days, where I was producing a Java game, I was going to all the operators, I was going to all the OEMs, but it was easy fragmentation. Nowadays, you're building in different kind of monetization, billing, advertisement, social feature, analyzing your stuff, different platforms. That's mad for the big ones. And the biggest challenge for all of the big publishers they are planning in ages. A mobile game developer like we produce our game in 3 to 6 months. We are ready. We can change our teams very fast to one platform to another, to a new stuff that is coming up, no matter if it's a radio ad, if it's new analyzing tools, whatever. And those big guys, even with the development that they are doing nowadays, that's not working.
Do you really think if Diablo comes to the mobile space, it's not going to be kick-ass?
Yeah, but I'm not afraid about Diablo, because there is so many consumers. Check out 1.3 million new Android devices every single day. Diablo can have 400,000. I take the rest, no issue.
That's
so
ambitious.
it's about
good luck with that. Yeah,
we do that.
That eerily reminds me of what the browser games people said a couple of years or a year even ago. Because I mean, I think that's one of that's sort of a bit of a hybris. I mean, and you're entitled to it because you've been there for 13 years and you've seen a lot of big guys come and go and come again and go again and probably come back again. But the reliance on the fact that the others just can't do what you can do because you're small, that's just assuming that they don't find an organizational structure that allows them to work this way. I mean, EA has been, and Ubi is doing similar things. They have been, before they've been a giant like the Japanese are, and they just buy a culture and then buy companies that integrate it. And they've already learned that in the PC and console space, that doesn't really make sense. It's not making everything, your company, but getting the company and trying to play to its strengths. So is there, do you see something that really no one can do other than the fact that you've been around in the market? Because technically they can do it, they can have brand names. Again, brands are not the healing power for everything. If you've got a brand expectation and you disappoint people, then they walk away. But nevertheless, it's in a market where user attention is the key to selling your product in the first place. Having the leverage to get user attention and then being able to produce something that is quality enough so the users stay, that is a big asset. So how do you see that? Do you yourself defending against that?
I don't need to defend them, but I believe that they are not profitable, not all of them. And yeah, if you have deep pockets, you can do a lot. You can have revenues like hell because you're buying up the charts, you're buying the big brands. You have teams like 150 guys producing 2-3 games a year. We do it differently. I'm not saying that we are doing it correctly all the time. We did a lot of failures, so it's the same like Klaus saying all the time, we are learning and learning and learning. And I think the experience, perhaps not the 13 years that we are in here, but I think 4 or 5 years, that's experience that you need to acquire, that you need to get into the company. Check out, as you mentioned, the acquisition of NG Moko. Yeah, the wisdom is gone.
So. That was so early. That was just so early. When NG Moko had its height, that was the very, very beginning of the App Store, and it was not mature. Now it's mature, and I mean, we are at a performance level where you can take your assets for the Xbox 360 directly to the phone. I mean, there's nothing you need to change. So it's the exact same people working. You could have it. So I don't know if the EA works like that, but you could have it that the art assets are created for the Xbox 360, PS3, PC, and mobile as well. And maybe you say, well, we have an even a higher level of detail for the next generation of consoles. Fine, you just plan that in. If you do this from the very first beginning, if you make up your mind about game sessions and so on, and yes, absolutely, a game session needs to be short, like only a couple minutes to work on mobile, but if you give the depth and somebody wants to delve into the game, immerse themselves, and the content is there, fine, then they play even longer. Last point is, the console guys are used to spend a couple 10 million on a title. So spending a couple million on a mobile title is fine. The browser games guys I was talking to, they were afraid of 7-digit budgets on mobile. So because as much as I know from browser games, in the beginning it was like a couple 100,000-ish, and it came up with more multiplayer and so on. And I said mobile, so if you're entering mobile now and you're not prepared, talking about this top level quality, and you're not prepared to invest a 7-digit budget, I mean, you won't be able to compete with EA and sooner or later Ubisoft, Activision when they bring their brands to the place. And as long as you're not willing to do that, I would say, well then, you need to stay within casual, but even within casual, I see the quality going up.
On that issue, how much did it cost you to produce a title 3 years ago and to market it versus this? I mean, we've seen the browser games, people said it's sort of tripled around that from last year or the year before to currently marketing budget as well as development budget. What's your numbers on that? Is there similar development in speed? You don't, roughly.
Roughly as the same development as in browser.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not around that long in mobile,
you haven't been around,
to be honest, but you still can produce great games for low 6-digit budgets. That's possible.
Yeah.
I think you can invest significantly more. I have a little bit of insight, obviously, in the numbers of the Supercell guys, and Clash of Clans, for example, was significantly more expensive. But it's an investment that paid off. When you look at CSR racing, I'm pretty sure it is rather close to 5 to 10 million range than in the lower one-digit millions. And there will be always a kind of title that has this development budget to just create a great visual experience. And the challenge will be to compete with it, even when there is a brand on top of it, when there is marketing money behind it, because we will be competing for the chart positions. I mean, everybody knows that the distribution of the downloads is pretty much a hockey stick, and with every version of the iOS, it gets a little bit steeper and steeper and steeper in the beginning. And on the other hand, obviously, the featurings to get up there, which are the most basic and cheapest way of user acquisition, and we are very lucky that we were featured with all our titles by Apple so far, for example. But it's nothing you can take for granted, and that is something that will significantly change once there are several big brand releases every week.
I believe the development itself is the same as 3 years ago. The problem for some guys are that they are not taking in account that they need to do updates, that they need to build in a lot of new stuff. That's, yeah, I would say development, one game, putting a button, it's a release or a gold master. That was the case 5-6 years ago. Nowadays, you need to keep the brand alive, the own IP, whatever. You need to play around. You need to bring that to another platform. You need to integrate new business models, monetization models, stuff like that. Thanks to analyzing your content, it means you know where the consumer having problems, that they are not coming over level 3, or that they are not using really this and that kind of feature that you thought it will work out. Even I think all these stuff that you're getting out of the user nowadays makes it easier, but of course that's costs that you're normally not counting in the first development.
Well, I definitely see it's going up even for us starting doing 3D games. In the very beginning, it took us like 3, maximum 6 months with a small team, 3 to 5 guys. And even Galaxy Fire 2, when we launched it on Java, there was a 14-month project with a small team, though. And now if you do anything new, it's 18 months easily, 10, 15, 20 people. Mm-hmm. So make the numbers.
Yeah. Is that, I mean, a lot of people coming from the online games business, I'm assuming that a lot of people are here from the online games business, so I'm trying to bridge that, have obviously wrongly looked at mobile as sort of the next lower rung in the ladder. Exactly. And from what you're saying, it's basically, in fact, the more complicated, the more expensive, and probably even in terms of the technical possibilities and technical demands and the asset demands, the more sort of the higher rung. Is that one of the reasons you see for the failure of a lot of browser games and mobile people, social people trying to get into mobile, that they thought it's sort of the lesser, the smaller thing, when in fact it's already more complicated than their own business?
I think it's completely different. That's it. It's not more complex. I think browser games or online games are still very complex as well. Mm-hmm. And yeah.
How is it different?
I think it's completely different. You cannot compare one sector. It's the same like when you say, yeah, I was doing flash games before, now console games. It's different. So is it really more complex? I don't know. So for us, mobile is easy. Browser games, I don't want to touch that. So,
I mean, there are great examples of guys really adapting it well. Look at Vuga, for example, who did a great, really great and highly polished game with their Diamond Dash, which is basically an adaptation of their social game, and it's deeply woven one into the other. Pretty great, monetizing very well for such a mainstream audience casual title. Another great example is Xyrelity, based in Hamburg, who have like their 2 games that are basically browser-based games on the mobile. Works. I mean,
yeah, that's a very good example. That's one I totally not get.
Me neither, by the way.
It's like I'm looking at this, and kudos to Sven and his team. They did that. It's like very respectful. I look at that game and I'm like, seriously, what's the point? And interestingly, Mark, our CTO, said, well, I don't need all that graphic stuff, although he does the engine, right, our engine, and says, well, it's like playing an Excel spreadsheet game. And
O-game is still played too.
yeah,
I mean, it's 10
and
years
it works.
old.
And I was like, oh, Mark, seriously, all the graphics on the App Store? Yeah, but it works. So they are still top 20 grossing in Germany and some other countries. So kudos, we are not. So and they keep their place consistently. So this is very impressive. However, I think this is a very exception to the rule.
Yeah.
And it's indeed my impression is that the typical browser games, the bigger the companies are, the more it's like, mobile, that's like the ugly little cousin of the web. I can't tell if it's more complex or fragmented, because I could picture that with all these different browsers out there, there's a hell lot of work you need to do and tying all these payments. So I imagine there's a lot of fragmentation in the browser games as well, and I'm with you. I don't want to touch that at all. So there's no reason for us to go down that road. However, in terms of production quality, I definitely see mobile much, much higher. And as I said, very close to console.
I think the biggest problem for most of the guys joining the mobile game space is that it takes time. You need to build up a nice portfolio. You need to find the way where you can really compete in the market, what value you really bring to the consumers. So,
and I think there's one elementary difference, and correct me if I'm wrong. As much as I see the browser games business, I mean, you know both sides of it. It's like you have to have a lot of marketing, like bringing a lot of users into the system, and then sooner or later they churn out. As with every game, that's a fact. However, the majority is like you have to invest into marketing. On mobile, at least in the beginning and still these days, not necessarily if your quality is good enough, because the biggest traffic comes from the App Store. If somebody unpacks his new iOS devices, pushes the App Store button, looks, what's hot, what's on? And this is only to a certain degree connected with marketing, because as you said, if your game is crap, even if you put a lot of money to that, you don't get to the very, very top. And this is the only part where people are looking. In particular, after iOS 6, only the first 3.5 games are visible. So you need to have a very good game. It needs to be polished. It needs to be high-end. It needs to have, I would say, 5.5 stars at least.
The point where I disagree is actually that you can buy your way up there. It's just expensive.
Yeah, but not for a long time. It's not sustainable business. So again, it's mobile is different because we have the App Store. And the traffic comes through all those, in particular through those many, many new users every day. 500,000 iOS devices get activated. Today, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. 500,000 new devices. And I think 90% are pushing the App Store button and saying, what's hot? You need to be there. And you only be there if the quality is top-notch. And with CSR racing, the equation now is AAA plus free-to-play equals success.
But they also did spend marketing. I mean, to quote Christoph, he said it takes you about 1 to 2 million these days to get to the top of the App Store in terms of marketing. Something about that number where you just sort of whatever game you do, you can push that up to the App Store. If you got somebody who's got that money and he's got a quality game, and there's only 3 games there really, or 3.5, that matter. Isn't it going to be a very, very crowded market for a very, very small place? Or is there alternatives? I mean, it used to be like when the App Store started out, there were these like one-guy companies that made not millions, but more than enough because there was so little around. And it's the same thing like obviously it's a market, a lot of devices, very few games, okay, equals relatively easy success. Is this really still possible today? I mean, are these 3, 5, 6 guy teams really able to bring out a great game with a great idea and actually come to these top 3 numbers? Because how do they spread? I mean, how do you increase your position in the App Store? Because somebody downloaded it. I mean, that's always
I think every single day it's getting harder because there are the big guys that they can use already the established stuff that they found, the secret sauce as we call it, how to get the titles up. I can say, yeah, you can make money even if you're not in the top 3.5. So there's a huge money that you can make if you have the right content. and not being in the top 10, for example. So with one game, having the success that some guys had, like we said, okay, let's do the gold rush thing, I think those days are quite over. You can still have some small success, but really, like, yeah, one, two guys making a game, being very lucky, everyone loves it. I think those times are really, really rare. Because it's about 1 million guys versus one. That's playing lottery. We always say go to McDonald's, get the money there. It's easier.
And the 1-2 guy teams can actually still make a living out of it. I mean, it can be still very, very comfortable somewhere in the long tail. It will just not be a really big, scalable company that can do better stuff next time. But they will make a living out of it instead of working, which is, I mean, game development is better than work.
Exactly. It's still preferential to real work, yeah.
And but to really be up there, I mean, it's an app discovery thing. It's around 30 to 40,000 apps are submitted every month, and 60 to 70% of those are games. It's just crazy. How are you going to be found? And the App Store as such doesn't have a really great search, or even the Genius thing doesn't work yet, so profiling it. Apple will have to figure something out there, or they will have a very, very void ecosystem.
I think there are more platforms than Apple out there. So all the time when a new platform comes in, it's time for youngsters to join in. Because now getting into Apple, it's easy to develop compared to other platforms. But yeah, how to get it out there, that's the biggest challenge.
Well, there's still a chance to have a Temple Run every now and then. I mean,
sure.
Temple Run, seriously? But it looks good. It looks good. It's so easy to pick up, and boom.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Lottery.
So there's still this chance, and still Apple I think, does a tremendous job in picking from AAA production, from the big guys to the very, very independent guys. Yeah. And I mean, Andreas Illinger, Tiny Wings is now 2 years old, I think. I mean, he must have made 7-10 million.
Yeah, around that,
guy.
I think.
So, and still, it's like iPhone 5, best games, Tiny Wings in Germany. So, I mean, he's so...
It is a great game.
Yeah, yeah. So you still have that chance, but obviously it'll be much, much harder. And I think it makes sense that you sit down and really look what's on the App Store already, which is a lot, and find your niche. Because if you are similar to something else, it'll be really, really hard. And for us, it was like there weren't that many space sims, although Galaxy Fire was done before iPhone came along, but then still there was nothing comparable out there. And now we do have some similar games, and they tank completely because it's like, oh, it gets compared, and they say, oh, well, it's not as good. Apple is not featuring it anymore because it's nothing really new. So the graphics are not really so much better. Well, you always can debate on that, but it's not like groundbreaking. So that doesn't work. So we need to find the next thing. But that's also for us. If we think about a new IP that we would want to do, we need to be very, very careful what we do. For instance, we tried Snowboard Hero, snowboard game. We thought that's a snowboard game, that's good. It tanked completely. So I think we spent 300 or 400,000 euros on that title with all the versions and iterations and whatnot. And it's far away from becoming profitable because it was not too hardcore, and on the other hand, not casual enough, and there were just too many snowboard games out there. We did it because we had a Java game and thought it makes sense because of the reputation and whatnot. No, it was a big mistake. Snowboard Hero, come on, it's a generic game. It's a very stupid name. So I liked it. Anyway, just to give you an example, that does not work. If you take Rally Master Pro, another very stupid generic name, yes, but it works. Why? Because there's no other rally game out there. It doesn't work in the US, though. But in Europe, it's the only game. We don't have that many stores, but still people buying it. It's not 99 cents. It's, I think, 3 euros or 4 euros or something. It's doing pretty good.
Is it because a couple of times you mentioned that that's your first click on the App Store, you need to be there, and obviously every new device that you get, you're going to get a new game for that device. So the speed in which devices are developed, that's basically playing to your advantage. I mean, browser has been working on the same platform basically for since its beginning. It's been technically getting a bit improved, but it's not really a new device. Now, if we're looking into the sort of near future, where probably the speed of which devices come isn't going to go down any. So iPhone 6, iPhone 7, iPhone 8, iPhone 9 is going to have ever shorter periods of time. Are you making your money out of the fact that they have to get a new game or have to get the same game for their new device every time? Or is it actually, because you're talking about the long tail, are you seeing people that repeatedly buy games? How many games does the average user buy? Because I'm thinking of that Nintendo thing, where they got the Wii out, and they thought, okay, that's really great. And it turned out it really is great because everybody bought the device, but then they didn't buy a second game because all they wanted was the one game that was on there. And there's a similar danger in some of this if you rely on the device to carry you. Or is it for you that you say, okay, our games are selling for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, we don't care?
Well, in the beginning, it's like if you have a new iOS device, you sync with iTunes, and now with iCloud, if you have enabled that, and then you get all the games that have been on the device, on the previous device. Yeah. However, I'm a strong believer, if you have a new device, you're curious, what's new? It's a good opportunity to check out what's new, and that just drives so much traffic to the App Store. This is why you want to make sure you support the latest iOS, you support the latest hardware, and again, Galaxy Fire 2 HD was the best thing we've ever done, like creating all the graphics all over, because every time there's a new iOS device on a global level, Apple puts up, maybe not always on the very top spot, but we're always among these optimized for the new device, and that keeps you afloat. So.
And that's something that Apple really looks after when picking stuff for featurings. I mean, they obviously want to sell their hardware, and they want to present great content for the new hardware. And if you are not compatible to the iPhone 5 or the iPad 3 now, you will never get a featuring, never, ever.
So it's not only about the quality, but it's actually, there is a technical basis to it, and that means there's sort of a race that you need to keep in order to stay ahead.
Yeah, you get even a heads up. Sorry, you get even a heads-up email. iPhone 5 is coming along. Prepare yourself. Provide screenshot at the right resolution. Right? I mean, if you miss that, you're really stupid.
Yep. Yeah, just not about the change in the tiers from last week.
Well, was that such a big thing? I was like,
it was.
Yeah. Really?
In free-to-play, it actually is. There is a reason why you pick certain tiers with certain numbers. It's mathematic. It's basically basic economics and behavior.
I'm not horrible at mathematics.
And having a price point at $19.99 makes sense because it's the right price point. Now it's $21.49. How great is that?
Really? Big drama?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sales dropped significantly, at least in our apps.
Yeah. For us, it was like we get 10% more. So we didn't see any impact in terms of how many people purchase in-game. We do have in-game credits, not at a top-level integration, I have to admit. Anyway, good. It was just more revenue for us. And so we were contacted by some magazines. Said, no, I think it's great if Apple adapts to the currency exchange rate and everything. And was heißt denn Kaufkraft? What's Kaufkraft in English? Purchase power, obviously, yeah, thank you. It was too close. So adapts to the purchase power in certain countries. I think it makes sense. They did a change in the UK that was like 2 years ago. Nobody complained about it. So it's...
Our users actually complained that we were raising our prices. Yeah.
Education, but it's going to be an education. Oh, it wasn't the developer, it was Apple. Yeah, well, so what?
But you cannot communicate with your consumer.
Exactly.
So that's the biggest challenge.
Yeah. Well, then, you know what? On iOS, then next day, another 500,000 come up.
Yeah, that's the beauty about it.
Yeah.
So you are actually burning up your users. You just got enough of them.
I mean, seriously, you have we had the same situation. You bastards, you have an HD version, you didn't tell us about, because we didn't know that the device is coming out. I will never buy a game from you. How many people did that? I don't care. Seriously. It's like there's so many out there, and if they don't get it, so, I mean, it's this vocal minority.
I think you need to stay state-of-the-art with the titles, no matter what handset are coming out, and I think Apple is easy to handle. So
I mean, those games are so freaking cheap.
But Google is way better, so more challenging. More handsets coming out every single day. Even we don't know all the titles or handsets coming out every day. So
we have We have in Sports Car Challenge, which is a brand game, so obviously you can download and there's nothing to be paid in. We just checked in the database, it's like 4,699 different devices it's running on. We didn't know that there are that many different devices in our database. It was like, oh, right.
Combination of hardware and operating system, right?
It's insane. There's no way to play test and QA that. It's
No
like
way.
you do your, that might work for the majority of the devices. And
Go for 80% and the rest, yeah.
Is that what you do? I mean, I know that from the PC world where you say, okay, 70% of the market, if we're lucky, we're going to test the top 5 intensively, and the rest, if somebody really cries out in a significant number, we take it up. Otherwise, we just drop it, and we hope for the best.
We try to aim for 80%, and if something arises with a device we didn't test it on and it doesn't run, we look into how hard is it to fix, how relevant the amount of users is, and if
how
it
many
is
1 stars do you get?
some.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, sure. And what you do as a consequence is basically blocking the download for that type of device, because you can't handle the testing. I mean, I can't have like a 1 or 2 week development cycle and then 2 weeks of testing to make sure it runs on all the devices. Just slows everything down.
Christopher, how many devices do you support on average for one of your games?
Tons.
Yeah,
It's really like that.
Much more.
Because we are, for us, Android is a little bit more sexy because we like the open platform. So I'm not bashing Apple, but Apple has pros and cons, Google has pros and cons, and on Google it's like you need to check out all the latest handsets that are coming out. You need to check that out. It's not only the device, it's also, okay, what software version is running on that, and then even on the operator side you have different software versions, and they're installing something on that as well, so it's getting even more fragmented. It's quite some hell.
Oh, I have one that's even better. We got caught in the open. We were having Galaxy Fire 2 for the Samsung S2, finally. And the majority of those devices are coming with an ARM GPU. But in certain territories, in particular in America, it's Imagination Technologies, which uses a different texture compression. So if you optimize on ARM, it's not only that it doesn't run poorly, it doesn't run at all because it crashes. And then there's another subcategory of the Galaxy S2 in China that runs with a weird, I don't know, and then there's the Snapdragon. So there are 4 different S2s, technically, fundamentally different. So, I mean, nobody tells you unless the user says, 1 star, 1 star. What's the problem? It works with our devices. So I still think Google has, in the long run, Google will have an issue in terms of making developers' life easier. And I mean, you guys are doing great on Android, but if for the majority of developers, life is not going to become easier on Android, they will abandon Android, and that will lead to a situation that users understand they might have technically a better hardware in their hands, but if the content is not available, they will look for alternatives. And
All the ones that stay are very lucky.
Exactly. So I think that's the experience that you're getting over years.
Sure.
So if you started with Android from the beginning, that's not an issue. The same like on Apple. So it's getting fragmented there as well.
I don't know what time we have. We can chat away all the time.
25.
Okay, so we've got 5 to 10 minutes at most for questions. Obviously, very interesting gentleman with a lot of experience and knowledge. If I knew where the hand mic is, I would actually run around and.
It's over there.
But that's Andre. So we share our burden, and you run around with the thing, and I stand up here and be useless. Okay, questions? Anybody? Raise your hands. There's a rare time opportunity over there. Roman.
Over where?
In the middle. There.
In the middle. Oh yeah, of course. There you are.
Hello, just a question regarding the Mozilla Firefox OS. What do you think about that?
The Mozilla Firefox iOS.
I haven't heard about it. We do native apps.
That's how fragmented the market is.
I'm actually hearing about it for the first time.
So for us, native, sorry.
Okay, that was. Let me put a question back. What do you think about it? Because obviously you seem there's something to think about it.
Okay.
Gentleman with a hat over there.
Just before I head to the next question, just a quick announcement.
Just give him the mic back so you can tell us what the interesting
I wish
thing
also
is.
to inform you that the track 2 has already started, and the next showing on track 2 will start at past. So if you want to visit track 2, it's upstairs in the Universum Raum.
Well, actually, Firefox OS is just an Android that's basically booting directly into Firefox. So it's a kernel that's basically also used for Google Android, but it's booting into a special version that is acting like an operation system that's just a browser running for a mobile device. And it has, apparently, from the tests that I've seen, around 30% more performance than running a browser on an Android itself, because it boots directly into it and it's optimized for that.
Okay.
So, just wanted to know what you think.
I think technically that might be appealing, but business-wise, if the traffic comes through the App Store, it's native apps. And we had this discussion previously, native versus HTML5. I don't see HTML5 going anywhere in mobile.
The problem
For
is
games.
monetization. That's the biggest issue.
Yeah, you were talking a lot about the visibility in the store and how important it is, especially for free-to-play games. And I was wondering, because I tracked a few games, especially your Flare games, and I recognized that you had good chart positions in the first 4 weeks or something, but then it dropped rapidly. And so I wondered about, with your budget for the projects, how necessary or what time frame you need to get your a return of invest. Like, depends on many factors, I think, but kind of a golden rule or something.
Okay, so the games we produced so far are all around 100 to 500,000 euros, rather at the lower end. And right now we do stuff to learn. So I'm not really looking into getting my money back as fast as possible, but it's rather about learning about the dynamics in the App Store, learning about how the users from a traffic source A are compared to the one in B, building up technology, building up know-how in the team. So we are still burning money, a lot actually, but that's the beauty of being VC funded. You have the money and the time to make a lot of mistakes in a very short period of time and turn out hopefully much smarter. That's the goal, at least.
I think it's not all about having the VC to try out new things, because if you're not trying out new things, you will stand still. So that's the same for handy games. So we try out a lot of crazy new ideas. So if someone would tell me 6 years ago, come on, we throw around a sheep, for example, and it will be successful, or killing aliens with a tractor is cool, I would say, yeah, crazy for sure. But nowadays you can try that out. You can have your costs under control very easily if you're producing in-house, and you can, we do everything very agile, so we check that out, we release it, we learn from the experience that we are getting from the first couple of days, weeks, whatever, changing things so that it's getting better and better. And then we are starting all the marketing behind it, the cross-promotion, even getting a feature. It's not good to have that really on the first day on all platforms, so on Apple it's different.
Even on Apple, it's like that.
Yeah, you're trying out then in Austria and Canada or something like that. Yeah,
sometimes
we do that in China.
As well.
So we do that in China because China is so different. So we try all the games out. So Clouds and Sheep on iOS is there, I think, for 5 months or something like that already, and doing very good. So, but we try out the games, check it out, rebuild it, really tweak it as good as possible. So it's, for us, all titles are profitable, that's it. And if you're not trying out new things, you die, my personal opinion.
Okay, I think we could take maybe one more.
Yeah, one more question.
One more.
The lucky person who gets, yeah. There's another guy wanting to learn.
Go, Philip.
Mr. Ricebearer.
Which one of the two?
Philip.
The only one, the evil one. One question, especially to Klaas, comparing it to your old life, the web-based, browser-based life, do you see major differences in terms of a user loyalty to your games? Or are you already in the position of saying that in terms of lifetime and engagement?
Yes and no. I mean, the games we did so far are not really in the same turf as the games we did at Gameforge. I think the Gameforge audience is much more hardcore. But yes, we are turning into that direction right now. So we will build more hardcore or more mid-core, hardcore, whatever core games. the user loyalty can be similar, but in average, it's lower.
I must say, depending on the game. So.
Maybe putting some numbers on it. Like if you've got the average townsman user, how long does he play your game?
A funny thing was like one guy was playing that really, I think 60 hours in a week. That was.
You always get crazy,
okay.
but let's like the average user plays it for how just does he play for 3 months, 2 hours a day, or what's
it really depends on the user. It depends. Do you remind him that he should come back? So you have more possibility on mobile nowadays than you had long time ago. Yeah. So we can remind him, okay, come on, if you come back today, you get a present here or you get whatever. Easy. And that's the same with Cloud to Cheap. We have players that are playing that for over a year. So it's like, come on, it's really not that easy. I'm
not letting you off the hook that easily. That's a given. I mean, yes, you can re-engage players. Yes, you can remind them, and you can push. Nowadays, you can push actually, which is a huge advantage.
Normally, you can see that from handy games. We have around 20 titles always, having up to date. And as soon as a new title comes in, worse goes out.
So what's your lifetime on a title? On your average
title? It really depends, but normally it's about 2 to 3 years. That's what is normal. Like Guns N' Glory 1, for example, it's getting outdated now. Okay. So it always needs to be updated. If you're not updating it to the latest iOS device or the latest Android device, it's getting out of the market step by step. You still have it in there. It's still doing good, so it's still
what's your user lifetime within a game? Because basically what you're saying is when I support the game, I'll always get new users. But how? Because I'm trying to answer getting your question answered. If you've got a new user coming in, how long will he play your game? What's your user lifetime within your game? The average lifetime of your game can be 2 to 3 years, but obviously it's not going to be the same users that came in at day 1 that most of them at least, you won't see in year 3. So, anybody?
It's a 1-digit amount of days, I would say, in average.
Yeah, on mobile it's really very short. Even with Galaxy and Fire 2, if there's a new add-on out, and we worked on the most recent one, we worked over a year. They burned through the content within a weekend. Say, where's the next add-on coming? And I was like,
next year.
Next year. So, or maybe Galaxy Fire 3. So, and then you have these 10% hardcore players that go after all the achievements and stuff.
And stay forever.
They keep it on the device. On mobile, there's something different compared to browser games. Your storage is very precious. So it's very expensive to have a 64 gigabyte iPad or iPhone.
So you need to delete all titles to make place for
Exactly, and that leads, if the game is not, if you kill the game, you delete it unless it's one of your favorite games. Again, that is a reason for quality. Because then you stay on the game, and then if you run an update, they get that. Even that is without push notification, because I think push notification, no surprise, it's an instrument, people are overdoing it.
Depends on the game.
Yeah.
Of course, but
same as the social game.
The thing is,
piss everybody off for a long time, and they just won't like it anymore.
Yeah, as Michael said, it's about how big is the game. So keep the game file size small, and you stay on the device. So if you have 1.6 gigabyte game, like for example, whatever.
That was us,
Max Payne, whatever, 1.6 gigabyte. Come on, guys, downloading that, it's close to impossible. So keep it small, keep it simple, and you will stay alive. So.
Okay. I think keep it small, keep it simple is a good phase to start out with. You want to have one very short question. Go ahead, just for the fun of it, because we like to kill our schedule completely.
Just one question: how important is content update? I mean, I have on my iPhone and the App Store message 40, 50 apps which waiting for updates, and I hate it. So I think many people, they don't update their games. If I'm on the end of the game, I delete it. So what's your experience about content update?
It's absolutely vital, and I think if you look on appshopper.com or if you look at App Annie, then you see, and you look to the successful titles, and you see how often they update your game. That's the answer.
Yeah.
Look what the others do, and there are enough tools that track how often people update, and it's vital.
Come on,
and stuff games you really care about, you would update.
Yeah. If you're not playing it, you forget it. It's done. So
then we have lost you anyhow.
So at the end of the day,
And then they don't care about you because you don't provide any value to them. So
Yeah. And also you have to update to keep up to
Handsets.
date with the iOS changes and everything in the new devices. So I mean, seriously, the rules change every 6 months in mobile.
so it really depends also on how you're communicating with your fans. So that's very crucial. So if you tell them, okay, this update is just for whatever bug fix or a new handset is coming out, you don't need to upload that or download that. If it's a big feature, they will upload it, download it. So it's quite simple.
So that was a hands-on tips for making it or hands-on hints for making it in the mobile space. If you update, always lure them with a good feature. Okay, another good feature coming up is our next section. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here.
Thank you.